Hello, and welcome to the Management Channel. In this section, we're going to deal with leadership and the leadership styles and traits. So we're going to start off with Introduction to Leadership. Our objectives here are to define leadership and the importance of the supervisory level. We want to define leadership and determine differences between leaders and managers. We're going to take a look at gender, leadership styles, and leadership effectiveness. We're also going to follow the consideration of female leadership. And then we're going to learn about the delegation process and define the three major components. So, I want to share this cartoon with you. This is 8 types of leaders. The visionary, follow me. Oh wait, a shiny new thing. The operator, sorry, our plan doesn't specify bathroom breaks. The compromiser, maybe we should just take a vote. The drill sergeant, or the more autocratic type. When I say jump, you say how high. Drill sergeant. The cheerleader. You guys rock. Who wants pizza? The parrot. Our strategy is whoever I talk to last. The windbag, just mostly blah, 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 blah. And the coach. Play hardball and give it 110%. These are definitely different types of leaders, and I'm sure some of you can identify with some of these. Leadership is a process of directing behavior of others towards accomplishments of an objective. The definition is the process of influencing employees to work toward the achievement of organizational objectives. Managing is not the same as leading, and leading is not the same as managing. So, leadership is a process of influencing employees to work toward the achievement of organizational objectives. We established that. So now, what is the difference between a manager and a leader? Leaders lead people. Managers manage tasks. Leaders are concerned with doing the right thing. Managers are concerned with doing things right. Leaders focus on vision, mission, goals, and objectives. Managers focus on productivity and efficiency. So again, leadership, the biggest difference between managers and leaders is the way they motivate the people who work or follow them, and in turn this sets the tone for most other aspects of what they do. Managers manage people. Leaders lead people. Managers need to do things right. Leaders try to do the right thing. Management is about maintaining the organization and ensuring that the organizational objectives are met. Leadership is about vision, strategy, and aligning the organization's human resources to attain the goals of the organization. Managers rely on control. Leaders inspire through trust. Big difference. So, a person could be a leader and yet not be a manager. True or false? Could they be a leader but not be a manager? Yes, true. You will find in a group of people there's always one informal leader. May not be a supervisor or manager, but the one person that everybody in that team gravitates toward. Is it also possible that one could be a manager and yet not be a good leader? Yes, this is true too. Unfortunately, often when people get into management, they're so focused on getting things done and the productivity, they forget about the people skills. So here's a chart showing you leader versus manager versus facilitator. I'm going to leave this up for a couple moments for you to read. Please pause if you feel you need to. The core of supervisory management leadership is the ability to guide and influence the opinions, the attitudes, and the behaviors of others, but is not defined necessarily by a position. It can be assumed by work group members, kind of like an informal leadership. It's a process rather than a positional relationship. It occurs in obtaining the work group's willingness to follow the supervisor. Tests of leadership. Does a leader possess a clear vision of what needs to be done? Is there a continuous pursuit of excellent and worthwhile objectives? Does a leader communicate that vision and get others to get on board? Does a leader build a climate of mutual trust and respect? Does a leader create the proper infrastructure to support the vision? Does a leader enable the followers to be the best that they can be by coaching and motivating? Does a leader leave the organization better than he or she found it? Can leadership be developed? It can be. The ability to lead is something that can be learned. Leadership is unrelated to any physical attributes, and a successful leader's qualities are impeccable credibility or integrity, they're intelligent, they're well-rounded in interests and aptitudes, they're good communicators, they're mentally and emotionally mature, and they have strong inner drives. So let's have a couple of discussion points, something for you to think about. I know you can't answer me, but I want you to think about this. Do you think leadership is basically manipulation? Manipulating people to do what you want them to do? What do you think? Do we really need leaders? Or can we all just amble together along like a herd and stumble into the right way? What traits do you think are most important in a leader? When you look at your leader or your supervisor or your manager, what points do you feel they should possess? What kind of traits? And do they? Here's what employees want from leaders. Direction. People want leaders to have a purpose. The leader has to have a clear idea of what has to be done. Trust. The ability to trust their leaders is perhaps more important today than any other time in recent work history. Hope. Leaders believe and they kindle the fire of optimism in their followers. And results. Leaders accomplish difficult tasks. Success breeds success. Successful leader behaviors are ones that challenge the process, searching for opportunities, experimenting, and taking risks. Inspiring a shared vision and enlisting the support of others. Enabling others to act, fostering collaboration, strengthening others, empowering employees. Modeling the way. Very important. Setting the example, planting small wins, and encouraging the heart. Recognize contributions, give praise where needed, and celebrate accomplishments. General supervision means that the supervisor sets goals and limits, but allows employees to decide how to achieve those. General supervision is appropriate and advantageous when employees are competent and have a desire to participate. Participative management is one of the best topics today. The most successful managers are those who practice participative management. It allows employees to influence and share in the organizational decision making. For the advantages of participative management to both the supervisor and the employees, please review the chart below. I'll leave this with you. Pause if you need to. There are different approaches to supervisor leadership. One is the directive or communication approach. It relies on the supervisor conveying to employees the what, how, and why something is to be accomplished. Open book management helps employees understand how the impact of what they do affects the organization's objectives as well as the bottom line. Free rein, or what we call laissez-faire supervision, is a process by which the supervisor delegates virtually all authority to the employees to decide and act without the supervisor's involvement. Not necessarily a good recommendation there. And stretch targets. These are job objectives that present a challenge but are attainable. Leadership trait theorists attempt to determine a list of distinctive characteristics that account for what makes a leader effective. However, they were unsuccessful in identifying a universal set of traits, something that all leaders possess. They could not come up with a consensus. Gazzelli's study in 1971 concluded that certain traits are important to effective leadership, supervisor ability being the most important, or getting work done through others. He identified 6 traits for effective leadership. Number 1, supervisor ability, getting the job done through others. The need for occupational achievement, seeking responsibility and having the motivation to work hard to achieve it. Intelligence, the ability to use good judgment and sound reasoning. Decisiveness, ability to solve problems and make decisions competently. Self-assurance, viewing oneself as capable of coping with problems and behaving in a manner that shows others that you do have self-esteem. And initiative, self-starting, or being able to get the job done with a minimum of supervision from their own boss. So, again, I can't discuss this with you. I wish we could. But let's think about it. Is it ethical and socially responsible to say that people of a particular gender make better leaders? Do you think male or female are better in a position as a leader? Do you think men and women lead in the same way or not? If not, why? Or do you think they do? Are men or women more ethical and socially responsible as leaders? Do you think men are more socially responsible than women, or vice versa? Would you prefer to have a man or a woman as a boss? Think about that. Women in leadership, there's some history there. Previous trends in history reported differences between men and women as leaders. In 1977, a report suggested women were inferior to men. Women lacked skills and traits necessary for success as a manager. 1990, research stated women were superior in leadership positions. A lot changed there in 23 years. Many scholars ask, can women actually be effective leaders? Today, there are many successful women CEOs, Avon, PepsiCo, etc. Look around. Study inquiry was, what are the leadership style and effective differences between men and women? Why are women underrepresented in those elite leadership roles? Study results show that women do not lead more interpersonally oriented or less task-oriented than men do. Only gender difference is, women use a more participative or democratic style than men do. Women were devalued when working in primarily man-dominated environments. Most men did not want to work for a woman, so they did little to help. Females were evaluated unfavorably when they used directive or autocratic styles typical of males. So in other words, when the females did the same style as a male boss, it was acceptable, but when the female did it, it wasn't acceptable. Women's styles tend to be more transformational than men's. Women tend to engage in more contingent reward behaviors than men do. Women and men were more effective in a leader role that was congruent with their own gender. Women did great with women, and men did great with men, but the crossover didn't always work so good. Did you know that women make up nearly half the U.S. labor force now, about 49.6%? Women were considered to be less effective than men in military positions. Women seem to be more effective in education, government, and social service organization type leadership. Women outnumber men in higher education, 57% in bachelor's, 60% in master's, and 50% of doctorates are from women. Now, they only hold about 24.5% to 28% of U.S. Congress positions, but it's growing. It was 20 years ago. Factors and trends of change. Women in the workplace and related issues. There's an increase in the number of women in the U.S. workforce. Women's roles have increased both as employees and mothers. There's conflicts between job and their family obligations. There is still sexual harassment in the work environment. And now we're going to take a look at understanding the labyrinth. Human capital differences. The pipeline problem. Women have less education, training, and work experience than men, resulting in a dearth of qualified women. Pipeline is not empty, but leaking. The explanation is that women haven't been in managerial positions long enough for natural career progression to occur. But this theory is not supported by research. And then the division of labor. Explanation that women self-select out of leadership tracks by choosing mommy track positions that do not funnel into leadership positions. Women are more likely to quit jobs for their family-related reasons, still do most of the child care and housework. Women use flex time and workplace leave, often marginalized. Taking time off from a career makes re-entry rather difficult. So if a woman takes off to give birth to a child and give that first year growth nurturing, then it's difficult for that same woman to come back into the market. They have fewer responsibilities in the same jobs as men, and they're less likely to receive encouragement, but they are included in key networks and receive formal job training receive more formal job training than their male counterparts. Women confront great barriers to establishing informal mentor relationships. There's an explanation for the leadership gap. Gender bias stemming from stereotype expectations. Women take care and men take charge. Right. Stereotypes are cognitive shortcuts that influence the way people process information regarding groups or group members. Gender stereotypes include beliefs about the attributes of men and women and prescribe how men and women ought to be. Factors contributing to leadership effectiveness and the rise of female leaders. Culture of many organizations is now changing. Gendered work assumptions are now being challenged. Organizations valuing flexible workers and diversity of top managers and leaders. Developing effective and supportive mentoring relationships for women, and an increasing parity in domestic responsibilities. They are also negotiating for valued positions and resources. Women's foray into entrepreneurship, adopting transformational leadership styles, and they're becoming more assertive without losing their femininity. And now let's look at delegation. Very important part of being a supervisor and a manager, male or female. Delegation is a process of entrusting some duties and related authority to your subordinates. Accountability is the obligation one has to one's boss and the expectation that employees will accept credit or blame for the results achieved in performing their assigned tasks. Responsibility is the obligation to perform certain tasks and duties as assigned by your supervisor. Delegation is the supervisor's strategy for accomplishing their objectives. So, assigning duties to immediate supervisors to help get that off of their plate, granting limited permission or authority to make commitments, use resources, and take all actions necessary to perform duties, creating an obligation or responsibility on the part of each employee to perform duties satisfactorily. Reasons for the lack of supervisor delegation. Well, one of is they feel there's a shortage of qualified employees. They can't do it. Only I can do it. The other part of it is the ego that feels that nobody can do the job better than you. They have a fear of subordinates making mistakes. They have this mentality, I'd rather just do it myself, then I know it's done correctly. If it has to be done right, I have to do it. Or there's also the fear of being replaced. And I can tell you that in my managerial career, I always developed somebody below me because I always felt like everybody has to know what needs to be done And if something happened to me, the functions must continue. So I always worked on grooming somebody, and that actually pushed me up the ladder instead of backwards. And then we have the they won't do it, you can keep it mentality. The benefits of delegation are many. Employees will make more of their own decisions and become more self-confident and self-reliant. The supervisor will now have more time to manage, to provide advice, to coach, and to help motivate employees. Employees will perform more jobs and find more solutions that increase performance. The more you involve employees, the more wonderful things happen. Employees will become more committed to better performance and thus more motivated. That ends this first intro on leadership. I hope you'll take time to visit more of the leadership traits in this section. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.